is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
There we go.
Hey, we're off and rolling. Good morning, everybody. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, and we're here today. We all showed up for work.
Whoa. That's right.
We all digitally showed up for work. Justin Kinner, Jacob Tissett, and Elliot Rearing. Gentlemen, good morning. Off and rolling here. Happy Monday/Tuesday.
That's right. I think we're all pretty tired. We all had a basketball-filled weekend, right?
Yeah, it was a beautiful weekend, and Jacob and I were working out, and I don't know, it was Xenia, Ohio.
I think
Xenia,
technically,
Ohio.
Yeah, a lot of fields, not a lot of buildings.
I was driving home last night around midnight in Xenia, Ohio. Again, never heard of that place before. I was driving home, and I looked up at the sky, and the stars were incredible. I looked up, and it was a legit, I guess because there was no light pollution anywhere in Xenia, I got to see every star there ever was, and that was pretty cool. But yeah, basketball, we were working basketball all weekend, and Monday, I guess. I don't even know what day it is. Today's Tuesday, I think.
It's all mush.
But all mush. It's all mush. And now we're here, so what a day to be alive.
Kenner, you got to go down to Rupp.
Xenia is... I did. I get to get, there was a basketball game that started and lasted maybe a couple minutes. It was not pretty. Kentucky, top 25 team going up against a team that was picked to finish fourth in their conference, and it looked like it out there. But Rupp is freaking sweet, dude.
I've always heard great
things. It's like an entire production from tip off until the very end. I mean, there's pyro for the introductions. I mean, there's a DJ that's like emceeing during every dead ball timeout. I mean, it's absolutely insane. The game ended, and about 5,000 fans stuck around after. They stayed in their seats or just kind of crammed into the middle section just to watch the post-game interview and hang out afterwards. It's wild. I mean, you go back, and there's just, players all over the place being interviewed. There's so many media outlets out there. That was just for a Kentucky-Wright State game. That was why. That was one of the coolest basketball arenas I've been to, or environments, if you will. And that's just for game one. Now, the Mark Pope era, you could tell there's like that crowd's re-energized for that, and that was a good performance by them yesterday. So, but nonetheless, yeah, Wright State, they were a little overmatched, slightly.
Yeah, that's you always root for the blue blood big dog, so you were probably happy about that outcome, right, Kenner? You always want you want the big guy to win.
Look,
screw
Wright State,
the little man.
That's right.
That's my little guy. Right?
Okay.
If I was ever to cheer for. I'm a big Wright State fan, so I'm going to roll with Wright State. But yeah, that was I was hoping maybe the threes would start falling and keep them in it, but that was the only way that was going to happen. But nonetheless, so you guys were busy though. You guys were busy.
That's right. 3 basketball games. Yeah, 3 basketball games over at Athletes in Action over in Xenia, Ohio. Pretty cool time. It was fun, a lot of fun. FAU, Indiana State, and then Valpo versus Liberty, men's and women's. So 3 different games we broadcasted over on their YouTube, and then on a bunch of local channels, right, Elliot? It was Gray Media. It was a bunch of local channels, like 30-plus channels,
like 31
across the country. So pretty cool opportunity for us. Definitely the biggest broadcast this company has done to date. So big step for us, and it went well. We got 3 games, and they all went off the ground, and cameras were rolling, and announcers were announcing for the entirety of all the games. It was phenomenal.
I will say I'm a big college basketball guy. So to have college basketball season tip off yesterday, was incredible. I thought, and I'm sure, I won't be able to give detailed analysis of UC's 4,000-point victory over Arkansas Pine Bluff, but I will be able to maybe at least be excited about it. Xavier Musketeers, they got a win. Did NKU play yesterday? NKU played. I don't know if they won, so shout out to me for not looking. But it's great to have college basketball back. College basketball is the best time of the year.
It's a lot of fun. Alabama rolled as well. I have a national champion in that college sport in my back pocket maybe as well. So we'll see how that goes.
Let's find out if Northern Kentucky played yesterday. Let's look it up together.
I know they played.
I'm sure a lot of people are. Let's see. Yeah, they played. Oh, they played Florida State. They lost 74-62. They actually were competitive against
Wow.
Oh, they tried their best though.
Northern Kentucky, like Darren Horn. I think Darren Horn's son is a walk-on at Kentucky. I could be wrong on that, but I know there was a Horn that played last night. So we were joking before. We said, look, if Darren Horn's kid's playing, that's not a good thing, and he was playing last night. So he emptied the bench.
Mark Fetters with the friendly reminder: Ohio State beat Texas. Horns down. Good start to the Diebler ball era up in Columbus. Maybe you can revive that program a little bit.
I love John Diebler. I hope that works out over there. Look, here in Ohio, very fortunate. If you're a college basketball fan, I've said Ohio is one of the coolest places to live, especially here with me living in Dayton. You guys in Cincinnati. Yeah. You have Cincinnati, you have Xavier. We have 2 D1 programs here in Dayton. Obviously, Ohio State. Like, you definitely, if you're a college basketball fan, this is a very, very cool place to live, nonetheless. But hey, today's a big day.
That's right.
Get out and vote. No, we're not talking politics. But get out and vote.
Get out and vote, though. Do get out and vote.
Yeah, exercise that right? So, the trade deadlines today and the college football playoff rankings come out later on tonight. And the Cincinnati Bengals, Jacob, did something that they've only done less than a handful of times over a 50-year period. Right. The third time to be exact. What did the Bengals do? Duke Tobin woke up early today and he was working. I thought he only worked in the offseason. He pulled some strings, and they made a move today.
That's right. Traded for Khalil Herbert, moved on from a 7th-round pick, which the Bengals have treated as if they're gold for the last however many years. Move on from a 7th-round pick for a running back that was buried on the Bears depth chart, Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert's an exciting player. This isn't a nobody trade here. Khalil Herbert hasn't played much this year, only 8 carries, 2 yards a carry, and that's because the Bears went out and signed DeAndre Swift. Khalil Herbert has forced a missed tackle on 23% of his carries since 2022. That's top 10 amongst all running backs in the NFL. Khalil Herbert's been a very good player on a lot of those bad Bears teams with Justin Fields. He's just been buried on the depth chart now with a draft pick of Roschon Johnson and the signing of DeAndre Swift. I think this is an awesome addition for the Bengals. I'm a huge Chase Brown guy. He's been great this year. I'm not so sure Khalil Herbert's not our best running back right now. He's a very, very exciting player and someone I love adding to this team. He's small. He's a bowling ball. He's able to fall forward and get a lot of yards, which I think is one main reason the Bengals made this trade. Is we heard Joe Burrow say it a couple weeks ago. He's very frustrated with how this short yardage offense has fared in his time in Cincinnati. And now getting Khalil Herbert in here, hopefully that's going to get a lot better. 22 rushing attempts on 3rd and 4th down and short in his career. He's turned 16 of those 22 into first downs. That's a guy I want on my team. That's exactly what the Bengals need. The ability to convert those short yardage situations when other teams know you're going to run the ball. This is exactly what Herbert gives you. A lot of people are wondering if he's great in pass protection because obviously without Zach Moss, that's the biggest thing we're now lacking. Not a lot of reps in that area, only 2 pass blocking reps this year. I don't think he's a huge threat in the pass game, but with what Chase Brown has showed in taking steps in that area of his game so far this season, I think they're going to be a great duo in this backfield. And I think this tells us that Zach Moss's injury is pretty serious, and we probably won't see him for a long time.
How much? Let me ask you this. Go ahead, Kenner.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask, so obviously you had to go address this situation. You had to add a running back. But does this get him now? Is he better than Moss in your opinion? It sounds like you believe so. But how much of it wasn't a lack of talent when it came to Moss? I mean, is it a run blocking scheme? Why is this team not able to run the football? Because when they had those historically bad offensive lines, Joe Mixon was able to run all over teams. Joe Mixon's best seasons were during the Bengals' worst seasons, especially during that run where they had bad offensive lines. It seems like as the offensive line has improved to protect Joe Burrow, the run game has regressed. So again, you get a running back because you had to replace Moss, but I mean, are they right back where they started? Still not a very good running team. I do like this guy, especially in short yardage situations. That's where I think that's definitely going to help him nonetheless. But your thoughts on that? Are they just right back where they started? How much better does he make this team? Because I don't think it's been a talent issue at running back. This has been a problem for the last couple of years. As the O-line's improved, their run game has regressed.
I 100% agree. I think they are right back where they started, but I don't think it can be overstated how much of a step that is. How far behind where they started were they last week against the Raiders? Chase Brown was the only running back that had a single touch 27 carries for Chase Brown was never the plan coming into this season. He was not supposed to be that kind of running back, and the Bengals are going to try to elongate his career by bringing in someone else to take some of the load off his back. Can he do that every week? Sure. We just saw him do it at a very high level against the Raiders. Do we want him to do that and shave years off the back end of his career by giving him 30 touches a week? He had 8 touches on our first drive. You need a second running back to split up those touches. Herbert gets him back to where you started, and I think that's a massive addition. I think running back might have been one of the Bengals' biggest needs right now, looking at the rest of this season, just because you literally only had one on the roster.
Let me ask you this, Jacob. I was talking to Jacob before this, and I had a thought. Do you think the Brown family did what kind of I feel like the Reds have done in the past, where they hear the complaints, they hear the noise of the fans, and they're like, you know what? We hear what you're saying. We don't even care about this guy. We don't care about this move. We don't care about making the team better, but we're just trying to prove you wrong. That's what we're going to go out and do. And you go out and get Khalil Herbert, who, by the way, has been pretty damn good in the NFL. This year has been a different story, but he's averaging over 4 yards a carry in his previous 3 years. He's been pretty damn good, and not to mention he adds a different side of the ball side of the game that Travion can't give us, at least this season. He hasn't been able to give it to us the past couple of years. I feel like limited playing time, mind you, but nonetheless, do you think this is like a Mike Brown special? We're just gonna make the fans happy real quick.
I certainly hope not. Seeing this trade come through, it makes me think that they're going to make more moves. I don't think you make a move for Khalil Herbert if you're not going to make any more moves. Excuse me. I think this is a move that you're building off of. You're showing that, hey, we are trying to improve this roster right now, even if we're not going to get a big-time name, by trading late-round picks to try to bolster this team, which is all I'm asking them to do. I'm not asking them to flip 3 1s for Max Crosby like some people are. I want them to go pick and choose different trades with different value picks and get guys in here that can make the floor of this team much higher. I think Khalil Herbert's the start of multiple moves today. I certainly hope I'm right. I think if they were going to make a move to just kind of give the fans a here you go type of thing, the one I had circled for that was Chase Young. Because Chase Young has been pretty poor so far this year. He wasn't great in San Francisco last year, but that's a big-time name, especially in this area, that would only require a 6th or 7th round pick. That was the one I was worried about, being the, here you go, look, we made a move of this trade deadline. Khalil Herbert makes me think there's more moves coming for the Bengals.
Well, to feed off that real quick, so Diana Rossini, NFL insider for The Athletic, she tweeted out, when reporting on this originally, she tweeted out about an hour ago that the Bengals trade with the Bears to get running back Khalil Herbert. She was just told that they're not done. Cincinnati continues to look around the league for an addition on defense. So when we talk about moves, plural being more than one move, it could be, add a running back and put a piece on defense. Maybe there's more than one move coming on defense, but that's why I'd asked your thoughts on them adding the running back. You had to do that, but it doesn't make sense to make that move if you're not going to make a move on defense as well, because I think that's where really the glaring issues are, and that's 100%. Really been the one deficiency that's held this team back from the very beginning of the season.
I'm hoping that they do make a trade with the Saints, and I'm not talking about Chase Young, even though as an Ohio State fan, I would love to see Chase Young here. I really want Marshawn Lattimore in Cincinnati. Yeah. I think that would be a phenomenal move for this Bengals team. It would require a lot. It's probably towards the higher echelon of the level of player I would think the Bengals even consider trading for. But I think with the firing of Dennis Allen yesterday, the Saints are looking at resetting those books at some time soon. They have been in cap hell for damn near a decade. And you can't do that all the time if you're not winning. It's easy to overlook when you have Drew Brees back there and you're winning 10 games a year. Now that they're not, I don't think ownership wants to be doling out these massive contracts. They extended Alvin Kamara to give the fans a reason to keep coming to the stadium. I think they're about to unload everything else. I hope the Bengals can reap some of that and get Marshawn Lattimore. I think that would be a phenomenal piece to add to this Bengals defense. Bump Cam Taylor-Britt from corner 1 to corner 2. You get DJ Turner as a third corner where he started the year, and Mike Hilton can remain in the slot where he thrives. I think adding Marshawn Lattimore to this team would be phenomenal. But again, that's a pretty big name, and up until this morning, 2 trades in 52 years for the Bengals. So I'm not holding my breath, but still very optimistic that the Bengals will improve this team, at least marginally, over the next few hours as we near the trade deadline.
All right, Justin Kinner, Jacob Tissett, Elliott Rearing with you here. This is, of course, Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We appreciate everyone who is tuning in and hanging out with us right now. Again, off yesterday because a lot of other projects everyone was working on, of course, but we're excited to be back here today, especially trade deadline. And the trade deadline's a lot more fun when your team's involved and not involved like my team, who is unloading pieces. It's a lot more fun when your team is adding pieces, especially as they set themselves up for the second half run. And the Bengals set themselves up for a very interesting run here in the second half as they have the Ravens coming up. They just beat they beat the Raiders over the weekend. They make a trade to start the morning. They may not be done. We'll have plenty more to dive into when it comes to your Cincinnati Bengals. For the radio side, we'll step away for a few seconds. We'll be right back. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Jacob Tissett, Elliott Rearing with you here. My bad, Elliott. I saw the countdown. I jumped the gun a little bit, but no, we appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Make sure you hit the like button. Hit the like button. Again, it helps the show grow. We appreciate that. Everyone right now reacting to the Bengals adding a running back this morning at the deadline, of course, Jacob. And let's be clear too. They make they upgrade the roster at a spot that they desperately needed after the injury to Moss, but they did it with the 7th rounder. And they might, if they're creative with some of their moves, the rest of the day, they might be able to get that 7th back, just depending on what they do. But again, you don't think they're done. You brought up Marshawn Lattimore. That is a pick that's a name that when I heard Dennis Allen get fired, I thought the Bengals made the most sense for that. They're going to be in competition, though. It sounds like the Chiefs are in on that as well. I saw the Bills' name earlier today. Bottom line is all the names you're seeing line up for Marshawn Lattimore, they're all teams that are trying to position themselves for the second half run and, of course, pursuing a Super Bowl when it's all said and done.
That's right, and that's exactly what that move would be saying, is that the Bengals are committed to winning right now. And I think that's what the Khalil Herbert move says, because you're not making a move for a depth running back piece if you're not trying to win this year. And I think Marshawn Lattimore would be a way to really go all in on that idea.
By the way, real quick, for everybody that's watching on YouTube, make sure to refresh the stream. We were having some audio issues there, so just make sure to refresh it, and it should be fixed right now. I was just letting everybody know. I was trying to test it out just then, so just a heads up.
Oh, well, I didn't even realize we had that. Nonetheless, but yeah,
that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. We're excited about the trade. Listen, that's okay. That's okay. We're working from home. It's like remember the good old days of COVID, and you had to do this every day. The good old days. It was the good old days of COVID, but now we get to do it now, which is fine. It's a beautiful day to be inside, so that's what we're gonna do. I had a quick question for Jacob regarding the Bengals trade deadline here. The Bengals wide receiving room, though, has been somewhat replaceable or replaced, I guess, with Mike Gesicki. The talent of at least T. Higgins can't be replicated, but you can at least, in the aggregate, somewhat replace him with Mike Gesicki. Is there a chance that you can go out and get a wide receiver at the deadline?
I would not expect the Bengals to. That would be a luxury trade, and I don't think the Bengals are going to make luxury trades. We're just now getting to the point where we're seeing them make necessity trades, which is what this Khalil Herbert move was. I don't think the Bengals are going to trade for many depth pieces. I think if they add, it's going to be corner, which they think they need a starter. It's going to be edge rusher, which they think they need a starter. Or it's going to be tackle depth because you quite literally don't have a backup tackle, another necessity trade. I don't think the Bengals are throwing in the towel on Andre Yoshivas, even though a lot of us are woke on how good he is as a wide receiver. I think Jermaine Burton, who knows what's up with him anymore. We'll obviously get to that a little later in the show, but a lot of question marks there. So I wouldn't necessarily be relying on him the rest of the season. So I don't know what to really expect from the wide receiver room in terms of additions. I would say that they're not going to make a move. I would love to see them make a move. I think wide receiver 3 is one of the biggest positions of need on this team right now. But again, once you get off of that 1 and 2, especially when you have Jamar and T. Higgins, I don't know how much teams really value that wide receiver 3, especially the Bengals, when that would be when you have so many other holes elsewhere to try to make trades and fill.
That's fair.
Yeah, the wide receiver. And look, you're coming off of a game where, Joe Burrow throws, 5 touchdowns, and Jamar Chase not in on that fun. I mean, that shows that there's I think the answers in that are in that locker room. It may not be long-term answers, but guys do. For the Bengals to make a run in the second half and get back to where they were as far as expectations coming in, guys have to step up that are currently on that roster. Any move that the Bengals make the rest of the day, not saying that they don't need anything on offense, but if they're going to give up any kind of draft capital to address the needs that they have, it has to be all put on that defensive side of the ball. And not just a move that can help them in the second half. That's the thing. We always shrink everything to needs based on where they're at right now. But if you could find a way to take advantage of a team like the Saints, as we talked about, where you can get a Lattimore that's not just an addition to help you win this season, but possibly next season as well, that's something the Bengals need to be thinking about. I think that this is one of the more active trade deadlines that I can recall in quite some time. So the Bengals picked a good time to try to be aggressive at the deadline. Hopefully they're not done, but the competition, it's pretty heavy out there. I've been very surprised at how many teams have been as active as they are, especially as early. In the NBA, a lot of teams wait till the day of to make a move. In the Major League Baseball, the trade deadline day is always so fun because a lot of teams wait to pull the trigger until the actual deadline. Kudos to the NFL teams who have been pulling triggers for the last couple of weeks, getting these deals done. But you could see a lot of teams right now, they were kind of waiting for this past week to wrap up to see who they were. You have teams like the Browns who were like, do we hold on to this roster and see if we can make things interesting in the back half? No, we still stink. All right, Zadarius Smith, thank you. Adios, and I'm sure there might be some more moves coming. And then there's teams like the Bengals who are now buyers at this deadline because, okay, they're back in the hunt. They got a big one with the Ravens coming up. They've already made a move today. Hopefully there's more to come when it's all said and done.
Yeah, this got me more excited than I have been for a trade deadline, and I guess my whole life. I don't know why I would have been excited for a trade deadline in my whole life. And this whole lead up to today, it's been, well, I'm not going to get excited about these reports because the Bengals aren't going to make moves. It's just not what they do. Well, they did. And it's the first thing I saw when I woke up. So hopefully we have a great rest of this day, continue to make this team better as we get close to a Thursday night game. I think it was Mo Egger. He said it best right after the game this weekend. Beat the Raiders, beat a bad team, improve the team, beat a good team. And that's exactly what we have to do this week. We beat a bad team on Sunday against the Raiders. Now we need to improve the team at the trade deadline. Then we need to turn around and beat a good team. If you do those three things, you're sitting real pretty in the AFC. I don't know. I don't want to get too back in on this team, but I think it's one or two more moves to raise the floor of this team. I think the ceiling is fine. I don't need that home run trade. I think the ceiling of this team is Super Bowl champion. The floor is just so low right now. And we've seen that floor, we've seen the team play to that floor many times this year, especially defensively. We have to raise that floor. So you can't have those blow-up games where you lose 41-38 in overtime, or like the Commanders game where your offense scores 30-plus points and you can't get the win. We have to add to the defense just so you can't have those games where you lose on great offensive days. Joe Burrow's been phenomenal this year, and he throws a fifth touchdown on Sunday and spikes his helmet on the sideline. I think this team's pretty fed up with how this season's gone so far, and I think we're seeing some of that leadership that Burrow talked about at the beginning of this season. He's becoming a little bit more vocal. We saw the post-game locker room video where he says, get your bodies right. We have a short week. There's a lot of laughing and smiling and dancing in the locker room. Burrow kind of shuts it all down. He seems like he's taking control of this locker room and of the rest of the season and what it means. And everything I've seen from kickoff on Sunday against the Raiders until this point has made me really feel better about this team than I have in a while, because after that Eagles game, it would have been pretty easy for a lot of these guys to tuck tail and call it a season after getting blown out at home, falling to 0-4, falling to 3-5. It would have been very easy to hang it up and call it a year and say, we'll go get them next year. We still have a lot of these pieces, but it seems like this team's still willing to fight, and that's really what matters to me at this point. And now the front office showing them that they're willing to support them in that fight, which I think is even more important to these players. It's going to give them an added boost that, hey, this locker room, this front office believes in this locker room, and we're going to go out and get a win and prove them right.
I was just going to say, I think with the Bengals, it's easy to look at that win on Sunday and say, it's the Raiders. It's a bad team. They're playing the worst defense, the worst offensive line, the worst quarterback situation, the worst wide receiving situation, the worst running back situation in the NFL. And it's easy to downplay what that was. The Bengals had to win that game. They had to win it. And I'd argue, when I talked about it with Jacob last week, they had to look good while they won the game. I know style points don't matter in the NFL, But to give the fan base some sort of confidence that you're able to look like the Bengals of 2022, 2021, to see glimpses of it is what we've asked. And up until this point, you haven't seen it. You maybe saw a little bit of it in that Ravens game, maybe a little bit in the Chiefs game. But up until now, the wins that the Bengals have had, they haven't been pretty. You know, you beat the Panthers on the road. Jamar Chase has an incredible touchdown. Defense still looks terrible. The Giants, you don't score points. The Browns, you take your foot off the gas. Jameis Winston marches down to score a garbage time touchdown. Though it didn't matter, you're still looking at those games like, all right, there's a lot to be desired here. I mean, this still isn't the team that we're all looking for. This is the team that you saw on Sunday, though defensively, yeah, I mean, it's still not a great. I mean, we knew that going in, and we know that going forward. The defense just probably isn't going to be fixed. Right. There's not a solution for it at this point. But if the offense is able to look like that, and the quote that Joe Burrow had in the post game where he's like, if I don't score on every single drive, I'm going to be pissed for the rest of the season. Every single drive matters to Joe Burrow. That's where he is right now. And maybe it's not an ideal place to be when you're talking about a franchise quarterback. But this is the reality of the situation. Joe Burrow knows this. The offense knows this. Zach Taylor certainly knows it. And if you're able to fight through this defensive inefficiency, you're going to be able to somehow sneak into the postseason. I saw what the Ravens did to the Broncos yesterday. My faith in the AFC is still where it was last week. There's a couple of really, really, really good teams, including the Kansas City Chiefs. And then there's a lot of nothing. And if the Bengals can just be atop of the lot of nothing mark, we're fine. That's all I'm asking for. So the Bengals had a big win against the Raiders. You take that momentum into Thursday, which usually I hate the Thursday games. I don't like the Thursday games. But I actually think in this case, ride that hot hand as quick as possible. We're going to be playing the Ravens in the hottest that we've been this season.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I'm excited for.
No, and that's a huge point because this game – really, the season relies on this next run or so. You have, I know I've said that now a ton, but Raiders, Ravens, Chargers, that's 3 AFC games in a row. And we've dug ourselves such a big hole in this conference. If we want to get to a point at the end of the season, we can look at that in the hunt graphic or the playoff machine or whatever other way you use to try to talk yourself into the Bengals making the playoffs. If we can look at that at any point this season and have a few tiebreakers, it's going to take winning these games. Especially the Chargers game coming up in 2 weeks. You have to beat the AFC teams in order to have a chance with tiebreakers in this conference because we've already dug ourselves such a big hole with that Patriots loss week 1, losing a game that we shouldn't have in the conference. So winning these games is absolutely crucial. Joe said it, 7 of 9, and they still have the ability to do it. And we'll keep updating you guys on the 7 of 9. So 1 of 7, I guess. We're on the way there.
So keep in mind, too, the reason that the Bengals playing really good football right now heading to this Ravens matchup is so key is because for a while I was saying, okay, hey, you know, the likelihood of the Bengals making the playoffs is very high, mainly because the fact that I think outside of the top 4 division leaders, I think there's a lot of weak teams that are going to be competing for those final spots. The AFC has toughened. There's a couple of teams that have started to stand out in the AFC the last couple of weeks. That being, of course, to me, now the Steelers are leading the division right now, but I think that the Steelers getting hot with Russell Wilson has been key. They're sitting there at the top. Baltimore, of course, is hot. Of course, you have a chance against them coming up on Thursday. But the Chargers, I'm a huge fan of what Harbaugh's doing with the Chargers. They had a graphic the other day about the defensive, stats for this team over the last 4 years. They were all in they were ranked in the 20s overall defense, and they're first overall defensively right now as they stand, and they're 5-3. I think now I went from, the top 4 division leaders are locks. You're going to be fighting for one of the final 5, 6, or 7. I think Baltimore, the Steelers have the 5 spot locked. And I think that the Chargers have the 6th spot locked. I think that the Chargers are really good. I think the Bengals are fighting for that 7th spot. But the bottom line is, I don't know how much they're going to be fighting for it because I think it's theirs. If they play to who they are, that 7th spot is theirs. They're better than the Jets. They're better than the Titans and Dolphins. They're better than the Denver Broncos. We saw them get exposed the other day against a real team in Baltimore. They're now 5-4. At the end of the day, the team that they're battling it out with is technically the Colts. And I'm here to tell you, I don't like them either. I think the Bengals have that 7th spot locked. It is theirs to lose. If they don't make the playoffs, it's on them, because I think that they are better than every other team competing for that 7th spot as we sit here right now in early November.
Part of that is exactly why I think that Chargers game is so crucial, because of what you said right there. I think they're locked in as the 6 as well. And if the Bengals are somehow able to take care of Baltimore on Thursday and then turn around and beat the Chargers, there's a decent chance that you have the same record as the Chargers. And it's crazy to think that the Bengals are really a field goal, a botched hold by a rookie punter against the Ravens, away from being tied with that team for the 5th seed. So this team really is right in the mix in the AFC playoffs. It's not pretty to look at the record. It's not pretty to look at that conference record. It's certainly not pretty to see them sitting in 3rd in the AFC North in a year that a lot of us expected them to not only compete for winning that division, but to compete for the 1 seed in the AFC. And we're here talking about how we can backdoor our way into 5, 6, or 7. So it definitely is frustrating. But it's coming more and more into focus now over the last few weeks how possible it is for this team to sneak in. I know after that Eagles blowout loss, I told you I was all the way out, Kenner. In record time, I think I'm back in, because the math is, it's mathing, and I'm figuring it out, and it really seems like this team has a shot if they play even just above average football, fundamentally sound football. I think the Bengals can get in, and what I've said all year long is you don't want to play Joe Burrow in the playoffs.
Yeah, a lot of teams, they fumbled the bag this past weekend. I mean, I thought the Dolphins had a chance to get back into this. I thought the Browns had a chance to get back into it.
Yeah.
The Jets might have, and earlier when I said I guess it's just the Colts to worry about. The Jets responded with the win last week. I don't know if they're for real or not, but they've made the moves. They get the deal done with Hassan Reddick so that they could put that holdout to rest. They go get a wide receiver to reunite Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. So when I said the Bengals and Colts, it's probably going to be the Bengals and Jets. And once again, the stability at quarterback, the more consistent quarterback being Joe Burrow, it's Cincinnati, and it's that 7th spot is theirs to lose. But let's continue on with the AFC North and with the NFL. We'll talk about some of the top matchups from this past weekend and what that means for the Bengals moving forward. Also, we'll continue keeping an eye on the NFL trade deadline. Again, for our listeners in Dayton, when you're listening to this was recorded earlier in the day. Who knows? Hopefully by the time you're listening to this show and saying, hey, idiots, they made another trade, that's a good problem. We would love to be called idiots on the radio,
that's
by the
right.
radio listeners later, because they think we missed something. Hopefully the Bengals make another move coming up here over the next couple of hours. Keep in mind, 4 o'clock, the NFL, still plenty of time for your teams to make a move. We'll be right back. More Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, next. All right, so I'm curious, in the background at one of your guys' houses, I hear someone's doing some yard work. Who's out, taking care of business in the yard?
I don't know. Maybe my yard's being worked on, and I don't know.
I don't hear anything in my house either.
Is it
Is
it your studio?
I had to take my headset off. I'm like, is it my place? No one,
I don't know.
Maybe I'm hearing stuff. Maybe it's my laptop making that stupid blower noise.
Well, your laptop shot at us right at the end of that segment, so that was a fun little quirk.
What did it do?
It sounded like a shotgun.
It was a pop. You popped at us.
I'm just trying to make sure you guys are awake. I'm trying to make sure you're awake, nonetheless. Oh, look, I think the audio went away. Now I can't hear you guys.
The audio went away.
Oh, no, we're back. This is Off the Bench. Horrible stuff for me.
What's going on?
My bad. All right, let's start over. Welcome back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Jacob Tissett, Elliot Rearing with you here. A lot of weird stuff.
You can't scare me like that, Kenner. Not in a day like today.
Here's the deal. Something happens. You can't control it. You got to relax, dude.
I can't relax.
Hanging out. We're having a good time. The Bengals made a trade today, something they've only done 3 times in the last 50-plus years. And Diana Rossini with the Athletics says they may not be done yet. Now, you need to be more happy than we're.
All right.
Technical stuff, be damned. We're rocking here today. I know all of us are tired from yesterday, but excited to be back nonetheless. But yeah, like you said, Marshawn Lattimore, Elliot, I'll throw it to you. Is there a name that you are like, man, I hope that the Bengals can get in on this? You might have mentioned this earlier, but Chase Young has been mentioned as well. I know you've already talked about that, but Chase Young, if they do pull the trigger on that and get that done, does what for you?
Chase Young, for me, I don't think he's the world's best defensive player in the year 2024. But when you're looking at the Bengals roster, I'm not going to say any defensive ad is an improvement, but just damn near close to that, right? I think if you're going around the NFL, the Bengals have one of the worst defensive units one can muster up. So when you're talking about a guy like Chase Young, though I don't think he's a great player in the year 2024, he's certainly a help for the Bengals right now. I think that's without question. I personally wanted to add a wide receiver. I know Jacob was against that, and he didn't think that was likely. And that's
I'm not
fair.
against it. I just don't think the Bengals are going to do it. I would love for the Bengals to add a wide receiver.
Yeah, I don't think it's likely either. For the record, I just think a guy like when you going around the league, like Calvin Ridley in Tennessee, what does that guy have to play for anymore? Go get Calvin Ridley. Go get, and I know it stinks because he got hurt, but Christian Kirk was a guy. Maybe it's an expensive contract, but that's a talented wide receiver in a brutal offense. You could have gone out and got. You can't get him anymore. But I think if you go out and maybe look for a wide receiver, there's someone out there that's going to be available. If the Saints keep throwing Chris Olave to the Wolves, maybe they'll trade their whole franchise away. I don't know. I'm interested in anything. So I think that if the Bengals are able to make any moves whatsoever at this point, it shows me as a fan who has been asking for this for years that, hey, there's somebody in there looking out for us right now. There's somebody in there looking out for the betterment of the roster, and they're trying to figure it out. And that's all I wanted to see. I would like to see a wide receiver. I wanted a running back. You got the running back. A defensive player is certainly a must. If they're going to, if you already made one trade, you might as well make another, and the other has to go to the defensive side. So the defense is the next most important part of the roster to address. But after that, in my opinion, it would be go find a wide receiver. Because if T. Higgins, my thing is, if T. Higgins isn't going to play, and this is no knock on T. Higgins, but eventually I have to just come to the terms that this isn't a guy that's going to give you 17 games. Nowhere close to it. Maybe he'll give you 12, maybe he'll give you 13, 14 at most, but he's just not going to be available, and you can't rely upon him to be available for the entirety of the season. If that's the case, we've seen what this offense looks like without him, right? You have to find somebody that's at least as talented as him to make this offense work. Now, I will say, as I mentioned earlier on in the show, Mike Gesicki in the aggregate has been working phenomenally. Mike Gesicki is, when he's given the opportunities to be a legitimate wide receiver, because he's not even a tight end. He's a wide receiver. Mike Gesicki's a wide receiver. And when he's had that opportunity this season, he's shined. I think the past couple of weeks has been a pretty big bright spot in our offense. Because I think literally right before the T. Higgins injury, I was talking on the show about how Mike Gesicki hasn't been used. It's been a waste. No, we were so excited coming into the year. He was going to be our red zone target, yada, yada, yada. And it hasn't been that. Now, as of right now, Mike Gesicki's our legit second best pass catcher. He's our second best pass catcher when T. Higgins isn't available. So I think right now, if you can go out and get somebody as a wide receiver, there are teams that are willing to sell. Go out and find one.
Absolutely. And there's two other pieces on defense that I would love to trade for. One that's been thrown out a ton by our chat is Azeez Ojulari. And that would fit the Bengals mold of signing guys that dominate your team. They went and got Geno Stone, who had his best game of the season last year against the Bengals. They went and got Sheldon Rankins, who had his best game of the season last year against the Bengals. And Azeez Ojulari had multiple sacks against the Bengals earlier this year. So Bengals with the smallest scouting department in the entire league, maybe that's the way they scout players. Who dominates our team? And now they know Azeez Ojulari can do it, so maybe they go get him. I would be thrilled to have Azeez on this team. I think he'd immediately be our second best edge rusher. I would love to trade for Calais Campbell as well. I know he's a little bit older, certainly more of a rental type of player, a one-year deal down in Jacksonville right now, probably going to retire in the very near future, but he would absolutely be the best interior defender on this defense right away. And I think that would be a great trade, and I think it would take a 6th or 7th round pick, maybe even getting you a pick swap. So the Bengals could recoup that 7th round pick that they traded for Herbert by giving up a 6th for Calais Campbell and a 7th or something like that, and only move a handful of spots in the draft. So very, very nice options out there at positions of need for the Bengals, which I didn't know that was necessarily going to be the case. I thought the positions the Bengals needed were not going to be available, and it seems like for the most part they are, which is huge. I just hope the Bengals attack those markets.
Is there a move out there? Like, are you Are there moves that are being rumored right now for other teams that you are dreading happens? Because I saw one yesterday that if the Dolphins move off from Tyreek Hill, that the Chiefs are positioning themselves to reunite with Tyreek Hill. That's one that stood out to me. Are there some moves that you've come across as far as rumors that you're like, oh man, I really hope that doesn't happen? You would have to think that one would have to be at the top of the list.
That one would really stink. The one that I always had circled, obviously it's not going to happen yet, but the rumors of the Ravens being attached to every single number one receiver on the entire market. They ended up with Deontay Johnson, which I think is a great addition for that team and is really going to help them win. But I think that's a big fall from where we were a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, where we thought Davante Adams was already on a plane on his way to Baltimore. So dodged a bullet there. D-Hop to the Chiefs. Certainly we saw last night that he's already a difference maker there. Amari Cooper's first game in Buffalo was big time, but then the last two, he's kind of not performed nearly as well. I think that's always the trades I circle for the trade deadline, are true number one receivers going to really, really good quarterbacks that don't have them yet. I think those are the trades that really move the needle when it comes to Super Bowl contenders.
One more that came across this morning, and stop me if you've heard this one before, but Andrew Filippone, again, he does sports talk over in Pittsburgh. And by the way, Andrew Filippone, he said, according to his sources, that the Pittsburgh Steelers were guaranteed that they were going to close a deal to get Brandon Ayuk. In fact, I remember Nick Wright, saying, hey, that there's only the select few people that he trusts source-wise in Pittsburgh, and he would roll with what Andrew Filippone has to say. And the Steelers did not get Brandon Ayuk. And now this same radio host out of Pittsburgh is saying that the Steelers might potentially be in a position to land DK Metcalf if the Seahawks decide to move on from him. Again, at some point, you're like that mid-major team that is constantly in on the 4 or 5 star, and you always miss it, but you always brag about being in on the 4 or 5 star. At some point, Pittsburgh, you got to close the deal and make the move. I'm tired of hearing about Pittsburgh in the conversations to acquire Brandon Ayuk, a Devontae Adams, a DeAndre Hopkins, and now a DK Metcalf. Give me a break. Pittsburgh, just stop. Stop pretending you're trying to add elite weapons. You know you're not going to. I'm tired of hearing their name in the rumor mill. Boo Pittsburgh, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. Pittsburgh stinks. Fraudulent franchise.
This is now a wide receiving core if they were to have made these trades. Devontae Adams, Brandon Ayuk, DK Metcalf. I mean, that's big time. Wasn't there another one? I thought there was another one. I don't know. But really,
they tried to according to reports, I guess Deontay Johnson too, that they were looking at that again. And I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Add it to the list. What a dominant receiving core there. Pair it all with George Pickens. Man, Russ is going to go crazy. But obviously, they've made none of those trades. So I love that people seem to be giving Omar Khan, the GM of the Steelers, a lot of credit for just being in on these guys. Obviously, he hasn't gotten any of them, but people are saying, oh, wow, great work, Omar. Another wide receiver right on the doorstep of coming to Pittsburgh. Are we really crediting GMs for just leaking that they're offering trades at this point? He's not doing anything. These guys are never coming to Pittsburgh. It's leaks. The only reason people thought Brandon Ayuk was going to go there for the longest time is because a dog's burner account on Twitter said so. I was a pretty Ricky believer, but it didn't end up coming true. And then you saw the same thing with Devontae Adams. Now you're seeing it with DK Metcalf. I don't think the Steelers are going to make any kind of move, but we saw old Mike Tomlin, the Rooneys, whoever it might be, pulling the strings again this morning. They said the 2 worst kept secrets in the NFL were that the Lions are going to trade for an edge rusher. Well, they did so with Zadarius Smith. And then the second line of the tweet from Ari Mirov was the second worst kept secret of the trade deadline is that the Steelers are going to add a wide receiver. ... Did Omar write that tweet for you? I hate when coaches, GMs, and agents clearly are in the ear of a lot of these reporters and stuff, because that's where these tweets are coming from. That's where they're formulated from. Just pushing narratives.
Well, I'll say this. Oh, keep going, Elliot. My bad.
No, you're good. I was gonna. You're good. You're good.
All right, so I was going to say, I think more GMs should do this only because, think about how pissed you Bengals fans get every time your front office doesn't make a move at the deadline. At least pretend at least be in on conversations with guys so that you could at least tell your fan base, hey, we tried. We were in on this player. We tried to address defensive back, the deficiencies there. We tried to get another pass rusher. We tried to get a running back. Obviously, they pulled the trigger on a running back earlier today, but the point is, the Steelers, I feel like they're playing their fan base. I don't hate it. I get why you would do it. You want, at least after the trade deadline passes and the Steelers don't make a move, their fans are going to be like, well, we tried. We tried to get Brandon Ayuk before the season. We tried to get a DK Metcalf. We were in on a Devontae Adams. You ain't in on nothing. You're just being worked by your front office. But I do think the front offices that don't play that game probably should, just to try to, calm down the tempers of some of the fan bases out there.
Yeah, 100. I agree with you 100%. What was that sound? Now I hear it. What is that? What was that? Did you hear that?
That's what I was talking about earlier. That sounds like
what was that?
Someone working. So I think Jake's muting the mic so we talk and then unmuting him when he talks. I could be wrong.
You said there's sound coming from my end, so that's what I'm doing.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what it was.
Nonetheless,
let's just do a show, Elliot.
Jacob's freaking out. Stop freaking Jacob out. Jacob, you're fine.
I'm not freaking anybody out.
I'm
not freaking anybody out. I'm just here. Listen, I wanted to say this. Maybe the Bengals, I know I talked about them, adding a wide receiver, but what if they traded a wide receiver? I think if we traded one of our wide receivers for $5,000 Hard Rock Casino cash, I think maybe we could get a bargain for that.
Maybe. Let's talk about that, by the way. You guys want to talk about it?
I've been waiting to talk about it for 24 hours, 48 hours.
Then let's get to that. Elliot's been waiting to talk about everyone's favorite wide receiver in Cincinnati that doesn't play. And no, we're not talking about T. Higgins. We're going to talk, of course, about, see what I did there? Yeah, we'll be right back. More Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers next. All right, welcome back. Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Jacob Tissett, and Elliot Rearing with you here. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube and, of course, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. A lot of talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, of course. They get the big win over the Raiders, which sets up a massive showdown. Game 2 between them and the Ravens coming up Thursday Night Football. But also, of course, making noise this morning for the third time in the last 50-plus years. The Bengals make a move at the trade deadline, adding a running back, of course. But that's not the only thing that has Bengals fans talking. There is a certain wide receiver named Jermaine Burton that, of course, everyone was clamoring for to get more playing time. It seemed like that was the direction the team was going in. Joe Burrow spoke very highly of him and spent a lot of time talking about Jermaine Burton in the press conferences last week. Everyone thought it was Jermaine Burton's time to shine this past Sunday, and the vibes got off to a bad start. He showed up. He didn't look like, he didn't look, in his pajama pants, all that fun stuff. Shows up. He doesn't play. He was a healthy scratch from the game, of course, and has everybody talking. Elliot, your thoughts? I know you have a lot to say about our guy, Jermaine Burton.
Here's what I'll say, and I think I'm going to try to be as nice as possible, because as somebody who likes to go to the casino, I'm not going to make fun of this guy for going to the casino and playing some slots. He wants to play some slots in his free time. Maybe that's how he winds down. Maybe that's how he calms it down. But I will say this: to draft Jermaine Burton, given all the character issues that everybody knew he had, and for all of those same character issues to continually be a problem this season, and have it not work out in such a big way when there really has been every opportunity in the world for this guy to play. T. Higgins has been hurt. We just played a game when I think 3 of our wide receivers were hurt, 3 different wide receivers, and he's still not ready to go. And you have the sideline angles of Joe Burrow yelling at him or saying something to him and walking away from him. And then you keep seeing Jermaine Burton kind of like bobbing, dancing on the sideline a little bit. And it's all come together to be this perfect storm of bleh. It's just terrible. It's a terrible situation the Bengals have, unfortunately, with Jermaine Burton. I get it that he's young. He's youngish. He's 23 years old. I feel like you should pretty much figure out how to be a pro by now, in my opinion. I show up on time. I saw the quotes from Mike Hilton. we can't baby you anymore. You don't get babied in the NFL. You're a professional athlete. At some point, you got to grow up. He has to grow up. Why is he not grown up? And the casino thing was funny because it just seemed like it was just a cherry on top to him not, growing up. Again, he's 23 years old. He's of age to go to a casino. Nobody's like saying anything like that. But it's just a bad look to go to a casino by yourself and just waste your hours playing slots. The like 24 hours after the whole city was kind of made aware that you're not ready to be a professional yet. You're not. Jermaine Burton showed up in pajama pants to the game. Jacob and I looked at each other. We're like, I thought it was some sort of a joke. I thought this was like an irony thing. Maybe he was making fun of us a little bit and he's ready to go now. No, I actually think he just woke up, put on pajama pants, and went to the game because he wasn't playing. I think that's what was going on. I think at this point I get it's too early to throw in the towel on a guy like that. He's very talented. The 2 catches he's made this year have been incredible. But if T. Higgins is not going to play games, and if you're not going to pay T. Higgins next season, Jermaine Burton can't be a serious option as to being a reliable number 2 wide receiver for this team going forward. And at that point, what do you have? Now, nobody's going to, realistically, I made the joke about trading him for the $500 casino cash. Nobody's going to trade for Jermaine Burton. Why would they trade for Jermaine Burton? But I will say this, going forward in the next season, you now have to draft a wide receiver. It's the Jermaine Burton the Jermaine Burton experiment, in my opinion, has come to an end. I think even if he plays at some point this season, he's still not a guy, at least the fan base and probably based on what I've read, the quotes from the locker room, that nobody else is really going to trust. I think they all said they spoke very, very highly of him. Zach Taylor did, the coaching staff did, Joe Burrow did, everybody did coming into this weekend because they knew he had to play. Well, when you don't show up to Saturday walkthrough and you don't give anybody a call to let you know that you're not going, when you don't wake up early enough, these are things that can't happen. These are things when you're a multimillionaire, you can't really excuse. So I commend Zach Taylor for benching him. I don't think he had another choice because you can't reward a guy like that. You can't reward a guy who openly doesn't care enough to do his job. I think it's been a disaster, and at this point, you have to draft a wide receiver next season.
Yeah, I see a lot of people in the chat with some sentiment. Well, we know Nick Saban and Kirby Smart certainly didn't put up with this kind of stuff in college. I can tell you firsthand in my time at Alabama, there was not a single player on the Alabama roster that missed more team meals than Jermaine Burton in 2 years. So this was the thing that's been happening for years, and it's a thing that coaches have been able to work around. I think we've seen in the NFL time and time again, people be babysat. It happens. A lot of people keep saying, oh, you're a professional, we can't babysit you. That's not what's supposed to happen now. You need to know what you're supposed to do, and if you don't, we're going to cut you. Players get babysat in the NFL all the time. If you're talented enough and you can't get your stuff figured out, they're going to babysit you. The Bengals babysat Chris Henry when he got here. The Bengals, to a degree, babysat Ocho Cinco for a while. They babysat Pac-Man Jones. The Cowboys drafted Des Bryant. They had a guy follow him around for basically 4 years. If you're talented enough, teams find a way to work around it. Jermaine Burton's going to play at some... Zeke, absolutely. Same exact thing. If you're talented enough, teams are going to find a way to get you on the field. They just are. Obviously, Jermaine Burton isn't high enough on the depth chart now to where the Bengals think it's a priority to spend a lot of time focusing on him getting his stuff right. They're leaving him to his own devices, and that's obviously not working. I thought maybe this week was the opportunity. I said it on Chatterbox Bengals. You can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink. Jermaine Burton has no intention of drinking right now, it seems. He was game planning to be the wide receiver 2 last week against the Raiders, and he didn't show up to practice. There's no reason to play him in that game. I don't understand why people are mad about him being a healthy scratch there. On the other side, I don't understand why people don't think he should play Thursday. He went to the casino on a day off, and you want to bench him again? Are we serious? That's what we're talking about? If he misses a walkthrough, you bench him. You don't bench a guy because you don't like what he does in his free time. Is it bad optics? Absolutely. Should he have done it? Probably not. Does it mean he needs to be a healthy scratch again? Absolutely not. Jermaine Burton's going to impact this offense at some point this season. I hope it's more than one catch for 40 yards twice in an eight-week stretch, but maybe that's what it's going to be. Maybe that's all he is a gimmick wide receiver. I hope he can eventually turn into more, but we'll never know what the talent can become if he can't figure it out mentally, because right now he is so far away from being a professional.
I just want him to go to the casino with friends. That's all I wanted. Like, well, you don't have to go play slots by yourself. That's not any fun.
All right, let me ask you a question, Elliot. When you go to the casino with your friends, do you ever walk away from the group and play a table game alone, or a machine alone?
That was a good point. Hold on, let me
find
a rebuttal for that.
And another question. If you had a bad day at work in the Chatterbox studio, and afterwards there was a live camera that walked around and interviewed Reed, Casey, me, and Trace, and we all said that you're the worst and you're not a professional, where would you go after work?
Oh, I probably
go to the casino for a couple hours.
No, I
blow off some steam. Maybe hit a Papa shot.
I wouldn't. Casino Papa shots are in. Casino Papa shots are in. Real quick, we're going to side tangent because I can. I went to Hollywood Casino, and they've got free pop. They've got no free ads. They've got free Papa shot, Kenner. Free. It's free.
That's the best part about casinos is when they give you free stuff because they take all your money.
I set the record. I set the record for most points. It was incredible. It was a great feeling to set the record for Papa shot at the casino. But nonetheless, Jacob makes a fair point. Maybe he was with friends. I will say this: the demeanor didn't look like he was having fun,
and he definitely should have changed his hoodie from the day before. He should have worn a different hoodie.
And he was like wearing the slides, like the shoes weren't like, he wasn't like dolled up. He was just
he was going to the casino to gamble. He wasn't going out.
Yeah, that's fair. And I guess maybe I should feel sympathy for it. I just think that
I just thought if anyone would, it'd be you.
Correct. If you're going to go to the casino, just make sure you're photographed with friends. Make sure you have a bunch of friends there with you, and you're all there having a fun time. Because if you're all there, if it was like him and Jamar and everybody's having a good time, and nobody's making a big deal of it. But the fact that he looks all sad and sitting at the slot machine where he surely lost $100,000 asterisk, I don't know how much he lost. But it was just a sad look. So we'll see. And I'm not saying give up on him, but I will say you certainly can't rely upon him going forward as a serious contributor. I think he can. I think there's a chance he can be a big factor in the offense, maybe down the line. But he's not a reliable guy at this very second.
I think his attitude's embarrassing, and I think the fact that the Bengals took a chance on him so high is backfiring. I don't think you cut him. But I do think that this is embarrassing, and this isn't me taking shots at the Bengals or being a hater. I'm like this with any athlete that has the opportunity to do something that the majority of the population is not fortunate enough to do and play professional football, and to be drafted by an organization that has one of the most elite quarterbacks in the NFL, and you're in a position where your number 2 wide receiver is injured, and there's been some prime games for you to step in and be the guy. And to make a name for yourself. And forget even if T. Higgins isn't hurt. I mean, there's a need at wide receiver 3 that technically, I know, Jake, when you said he was drafted and some of you said he was drafted for a big picture thing, not expected to come in and play right away, I disagree. I think with the guy that had a first-round grade talent-wise, obviously dropped because of, everything we're discussing now, I think he was drafted with the hope of we can overcome the noise. His talent's worth the noise. Let's get him out there and let's take advantage of the hole that was filled by, of course, moving on, from their 3rd wide receiver that they've had the trio the last couple of years in Tyler Boyd. The bottom line is, I will defend him here. Going to the casino, I had no problem with that. I thought that was being very overblown on social media. But the sad optics of it, to Elliot's point, obviously you could have some fun with it. It just had the sad optics of it. Nonetheless, this idea that when the game's done, these guys go lock themselves in their fancy ass houses or their condos or whatever and don't come out until game time or practice, that's silly. But at the end of the day, if you want to be disappointed in him, you should be. I think that this kid, I mean, everyone's like, oh, he needs to grow up. What are we talking about? He's an adult. I was at 22 years old. I'm an adult. You all are an adult. Jake, you're 21, right?
23.
You're 21. 23. Look at you. You're an adult. You're an adult. We're all
Getting
adults.
There.
Like, We don't get to make mistakes. Us as normal common folk, we don't get to make mistakes at 21, 22, 23. And people say, well, just ignore his mistakes. He's a kid. He's a child. No, we're adults. And he has a prime opportunity. It's a luxury to be in the NFL. It's a luxury to play for the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow, and you are squandering it. I just can't sympathize. I see people saying, you don't know what he's going through. I know this may sound cold-hearted to me. I don't care. I really don't care. Go out there and play football. I'm going through a lot. You guys go through a lot. We all go through a lot, and we have to show up for work, and we're expected to be good. And if not, we get held accountable for it. Why shouldn't he? I'm very disappointed in him because I think he's lucky, guys, that 5 different receivers got a touchdown this past week. He's lucky that the offense didn't look poor for the 4th straight week, an opportunity where he could have gone out there to help them. Then I think it would be worse. He's lucky that other guys stepped up because if they had a void at wide receiver, again, I think they would be more upset with him in that particular situation.
I absolutely think you're right. He was definitely saved by that offensive output. I also think this would have been a much bigger story if the offense would have really, really struggled, especially with Jamar Chase's lackluster day, but saved by Mike Gesicki's 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think this weekend was really interesting with the Bengals offense really as a whole because, as I mentioned earlier with the running back trade for Khalil Herbert, only one running back, obviously 2 were active, Travion Williams as well, but only one running back getting touches in Chase Brown. Jamar Chase not having a massive day output-wise statistically, and then really no one jumping off the page other than Gesicki when it comes to just strictly box score watching. Joe Burrow just over 250 yards. I know he had the 5 touchdowns, but the pick 6 kind of mars that stat line a little bit, and no one really having an amazing day. And then you look at the final score, and it's 41-24. This is the Bengals that I thought I was going to be watching for 17 weeks this year. You don't need 100 yards out of Jamar Chase. You don't even need T. Higgins on the field. When you play a team that's in the bottom of the league, you can score 40 with whoever. And that's exactly what the Bengals did this weekend, and hopefully that's a sign of things moving forward. But something I do want to touch on as we're focusing on the wide receiving room and why I still think Jermaine Burton is going to have a big-time impact this season on the Cincinnati Bengals is because of Andre Yoshivas. And this has been a topic really for multiple weeks now. He's been thrust into a much bigger role in this offense than I think anyone expected at this point in his career, and he's struggled to get open. It's not being talked about a lot this week because his lone catch was a 10-yard touchdown. So he's being lumped in there with the receivers that really helped the team win. But as the wide receiver 2, one of 4 active wide receivers, Yoshivas targeted 4 times, only 1 catch, that touchdown. That's not good enough. This guy cannot keep being ran out there as the 3rd wide receiver of this team, and that goes back to Elliott's point. If you're throwing in the towel on Jermaine Burton, which I think a lot of people are, I don't know if the front office or team is. I certainly think they're fed up with the current situation, but I think locker rooms can switch and change pretty quickly if Burton gets back in there and starts working hard and focusing up. Not to say that that's a likely outcome, but if he does decide to lock in on this season, I think a locker room can certainly change their tune on a rookie pretty quickly. But this team is going to have to figure out a way to get more production out of that 3rd wide receiver. And I don't know what it's going to take. And if it does take a trade, then that would be great to bolster that room. But Yoshivas can't be getting this many snaps. I mean, Kendrick Pryor had 1 catch for 9 yards, basically the same amount of production as Yoshivas. Yoshivas just happened to get his catch closer to the end zone, which seems to always be his key to success.
Something to keep an eye on, no doubt. But yeah, the Burton situation's been an interesting storyline from the very beginning, and it will continue to be moving forward. So we'll see what ends up happening. Really, outside of the Browns made a trade earlier this morning. Obviously, sending off one of their pass rushers, of course, to the Lions, and then you look at what the Bengals do. Adding a running back. The only other move and Zadarius Smith, by the way, for the Browns traded to the Lions earlier, but. Right now, it looks like the only other move that's been made today, according to Diana Rossini, the Dallas Cowboys acquired Jonathan Mingo from the Carolina Panthers. Outside of that, it got off to a hot start this morning, couple trades right off the bat, but since then it's slowed down. Jonathan Mingo, the only other player moved so far here today ahead of the deadline as we sit here at 11 o'clock.
And Jerry Jones teased that move by telling local media that he's trading for a wide receiver that he's admired since his college days, a really special player that'll take this offense to another level. I have some friends from college from the Dallas area, big-time Cowboys fans. My phone was blowing up because they thought they were going to get Jalen Waddle. It's nice to see that even after so many years of dysfunction in Dallas, Cowboys fans are just as delusional as always. A 6th-round pick for Jonathan Mingo. You're not kidding, Jalen Waddle. The Cowboys are a joke. They're dead in 2024. This move is Jerry's all-in. He's finally giving them their all-in, and it's Jonathan Mingo. Woof.
Yeah, Dak's out too for a while.
And CeeDee has an AC joint sprain, which certainly can linger for multiple weeks. So,
all right. Well, it's let's see. It's Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Jacob Tissa, Elliot Rearing with you here. Happy Tuesday. We'll step away for a few moments. College football playoff rankings do come out tonight. We'll talk about that. We'll continue keeping an eye on some of the NFL trade deadline moves. Plus, the Cincinnati Reds make a qualifying offer to Nick Martinez. We'll talk about that. How big of a deal is that? We'll discuss. Plus, Joey Votto returning to the Cincinnati Reds. I know that makes Elliot very, very happy, but not in the capacity that you think. We'll discuss when we come back. All right, and we are back. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410, Wing AM in Dayton. Justin Kinner, Jacob Tissett, Elliot Rearing with you here. All right, guys, I'm going to lob it up to you. We continue with the NFL, continue with the Cincinnati Bengals. Want to talk a little Reds, Nick Martinez, Joey Votto. The rankings come out tonight. Are you guys going to vote for Kamala or Trump? I mean, what do you guys want to talk about as we sit here right now at 11:07?
I think we go politics and just kick it to Elliot.
Yeah,
it's Jill Stein's time. Everybody get on the Jill Stein wagon. It's her year.
I had a different hat I wanted to wear for this show, but I couldn't find it this morning.
No comment.
Yeah.
I will. Before we switch into the Reds, I want to switch into the Reds too. But before, because I know a lot of people are on here wanting to talk about the Bengals, and we didn't really get to have our Victory Monday show.
That's right.
This is our Victory Monday show on a Tuesday. So I will say this: the Bengals play the Ravens, and we're going to talk about it the next coming days here. The Bengals play the Ravens. If they're able to beat the Ravens on Thursday night, not only will I be back, but I truly do believe that the Bengals will be a legitimate Super Bowl contender if they're able to do that. I'll say that. Because at this point, you've won, 4 of your last 6 weeks. The 2 losses were to the Ravens, which that game, I mean, again, no moral victories in the NFL. There's no moral victories. But there is absolutely zero excuse for that game to be lost. I think if Zach Taylor didn't run the ball 3 straight times, asterisk Joe Burrow ran it once. If that didn't happen, the Bengals win that game, and you're looking at a completely different team. And I know Jacob kind of alluded to that earlier. The Eagles games, whatever, bad games happen. It was maybe the first truly atrocious game the Bengals played all year long, when you just get blown out at home. The Patriots game is a game that I'm going to be circling all the way until the end of the year, because that's one that if you win, you're 5-4 right now, right? You'd be 5-4. So in a 5-4 Bengals team is significantly different. We'll see what we do. We'll see what the Bengals do going forward. But if they can beat the Ravens, then we're all the way back. I'm all the way back in.
And now these next 2 games, both primetime games. Chargers game flexed yesterday. That's right. Into Sunday Night Football. The Bengals now playing, I believe it's 6 primetime games this year, which is just crazy. A lot of primetime for Joe Burrow and company. Joe Burrow versus Justin Herbert. Obviously, same draft class. Big-time rivalry brewing there. I don't believe Burrow's beaten him yet. Is that correct? I know the Chargers came here and won in 21. That was a bad throw to Elliott, because I don't know why I would expect him to know that stat. But I don't think Herbert played in the game there.
Oh, really?
I thought he was hurt. I don't know. Bad stat on my part, not knowing it. But anyways,
look it up.
Ravens on Thursday night, and then to LA.
Justin Herbert is 1-0 against Joe Burrow. The Chargers Bengals have played a few times, but remember,
Herbert's been in
Justin
and out.
and Joe,
and Joe's
they've been hurt. Yeah, like both quarterbacks. So they've only played technically head-to-head one time, and Herbert came out on top in that one.
Yeah, so hopefully, Joe can start stacking the wins against his own draft class. He's already beaten Tua a few times, and now he gets a chance to tie it up with Herbert. So that'll be a fun one. Certainly an interesting game, a big game in the AFC wildcard picture in 2 weeks. But obviously it gets less important if you lose on Thursday. So you got to take care of business against the Ravens. And it certainly seems like this team knows how big this game is, how little that Raiders win really means. I mean, there was a post-game video of Zach Taylor giving out his game balls like he always does after wins. And he threw one to Joe Burrow. And about 2 seconds later, you see that ball fly right back over through the screen, back to the equipment guy. Joe Burrow wanted nothing to do with that game ball, and after the game, he just told everyone to focus on this Ravens game. So everyone's turning the page in that locker room and is focused on moving forward. It's one game seasons the rest of the way out. So certainly
How excited are you to see Joe Burrow be so angry like this? That's my biggest takeaway from all of it, is that Joe Burrow's so angry at the franchise and at everybody. And again, when I say angry at the franchise, I mean just like he wanted to win and they haven't won this year. So I think that's what the frustration is right now. Maybe it's with Zach Taylor, maybe it's with the coaching staff, maybe it's with the ownership, maybe who knows who it's with, but he is so pissed off right now, and it's absolutely phenomenal to see. This guy is so hungry for wins. Jacob said it earlier on the show, but when he's like moping on the sideline, slamming helmets after scoring touchdowns, that's the guy I want. That's the Joe Burrow I need. I think after one of the quotes in the post game was, "What is there to be happy about? Job's not done." And it reminded me of the Kobe. It was like the Kobe Bryant quote. And that's my guy. That's my quarterback. So if we can get pissed off Joe for the remainder of this season, I like where we're at.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I am a little nervous about him being so angry at this organization and fan base, or I guess not fan base, but roster and organization. Got to start winning. Got to make some trades and start winning, because I don't know how long Joe wants to be a part of a franchise that's not winning games. So hopefully turn that around, make a run at the end of this season, and get back next season and continue to compete. And it's just a blip in the radar this first 9 weeks. And now we're back to the contenders that we expected to be this season. But I guess we'll find out. I'll take it at face value like you are and be happy about it, because I think it's a guy that wants to win, and that's always what you want to see out of your franchise quarterback.
That's right.
It's from an outsider's fan perspective, it's cheesy. The do-gooder stuff, it's cheesy. Like, Joe Burrow's been a leader from the very beginning without having to do all that. So do I look at that as leadership? I don't. But to his credit, he feels he has to mix it up a bit, right? You come off that loss against the Eagles, maybe being the happy-go-lucky guy has run its course. And I feel like, and again, you guys think I'm knocking it. I'm not. I find it cheesy. But what it is a fork in the road moment for him as the quarterback of this team, because, again, his personality has gotten them this far, and I think he feels like he has to mix it up a bit, because coming off that loss against the Eagles the way it was, it felt like the season was slipping away. The Raiders, they didn't play great. They were able to take advantage of, not playing the best but dominating a poor team. I think what he's frustrated about is those mistakes that they made against the Raiders. You're not beating the Ravens with those mistakes. You're not beating the Chargers in 2 weeks with those mistakes.
100%.
So although you guys think I'm being just trying to stir the pot, I find it cheesy. Joe Burrow's the king of saying all the right things, and that's a good trait. I'm not knocking it. I just roll my eyes at all that stuff from all quarterbacks, because they're supposed to say that, of course. But at the end, like when he said, I don't like for Halloween. He doesn't like Halloween. He doesn't like to dress up. He dressed as the Hamburglar showing up to the Super Bowl a few years ago. What do you mean you don't like to dress up? The bottom line is they beat the Ravens and they beat the Chargers over the next 2 weeks. Joe Burrow's, how is he not in the MVP conversation at that point? Because Lamar Jackson, they've slipped up the last couple weeks, right? Like, at the end of the day, if the Bengals beat the Ravens, they're right back in the hunt going head-to-head with the Ravens at that point. Like, I think Joe Burrow's back in the MVP conversation if he wins the head-to-head with Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert over the next 2 weeks.
I certainly think that. I think if the Bengals make the playoffs, Joe Burrow's going to be, right there. Because what are the stats going to have to be in order for the Bengals to go on that run? And then you are on a run of winning 7 of 9 or 6 of 9 if you can get in with 9 wins. And then Joe Burrow's turned this franchise around, and if they don't make any big-time trades, then he's done it with a roster that no one believed in and a defense that everyone had already cast off, and he did it himself and all that great stuff. Yeah, if the Bengals make the playoffs, I think Joe Burrow is squarely in the MVP conversation. I think if the Bengals beat the Patriots in Week 1 and they're sitting at 5-4, he might be the favorite right now.
I agree.
Yeah, and by the way, keep going.
No, no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, look, the other important thing too about that Raiders win is that put an end to 3 straight weeks of the offense looking abysmal. Because the defense has been so bad. The defense has been so bad all year that everyone, like even national shows, again, from a non-Bengals fan perspective, when you watch the national shows, Joe Burrow didn't play well the last 3. Well, he played well against the Raiders, but the previous 3 weeks, he didn't play great. He wasn't great, but everyone was saying how great he was and that it's unfortunate that, he's had to overcome all the defensive deficiencies. The problem is they weren't good for almost an entire month offensively. He wasn't his elite self. He was averaging about 202 yards and a touchdown a game for 3 straight weeks against the Giants, Browns, and Eagles. The reason that Raiders win was so big is because it wasn't just a result. I mean, they beat the Giants and Browns without Joe Burrow playing well. They could have beat the Raiders without him playing well, and you'd still have doubts. But look at you, Jake, you're back in. And you're back in because for the Bengals to get you back in, not only do they have to win, but Joe Burrow has to look good doing it. He looked good doing it this past Sunday. That's what's key, because you're not beating the Ravens if he's not what he was the last time they played. You're not winning the head-to-head with Justin Herbert in 2 weeks if you're playing the way you did against the Giants, the Browns, and the Eagles. It has to be that's the best he's looked since that Ravens game almost a month ago, and they're going to need that again coming up on Thursday.
Absolutely.
I was going to cut in with 2 super chats, Kenner. We have super chats, and before I forget, I'm going to read them out loud. Colin Will, member for 4 months. Shout out to Colin. Bengals made a trade. LFG. Now let's go get Ojulari. Get that right?
Would love that.
And he also said Trump 2024. So Justin says $4.99. If the Bengals get Lattimore and Young, I vote for Cammy.
There you go, Justin.
So
Lattimore and Young to Cincinnati would be a crazy swing for a lot of Bengals fans that wanted to take Chase Young at number 1 over Joe Burrow a few years back. I know a lot of Buckeye Bengal fan splits were saying take Chase Young at 1, draft a quarterback the next year. That would have been Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, the Bengals made the right decision taking Joe Burrow in that instance. Now it seems like Chase Young could find his way back to Cincinnati in a roundabout kind of way. If you would have told us in 2020 you end up with Joe Burrow and Chase Young, I think everyone would have said, well, you have one of the best edge rushers in all of football and one of the best quarterbacks in all of football. Maybe a change of scenery can get Chase Young back to the level he played at Ohio State. And something a lot of people always forget about when they say, oh, he hasn't been what he's been at Ohio State in the NFL. He was the defensive rookie of the year his first year in the league. He put up an unbelievable season before he was injured basically the rest of his career until this point. He's been a really, really good player at different points in his career. It's been some time since he's been competitive, but I think a cheap trade for one of those Buckeyes would be a phenomenal move for the Bengals.
Yep.
I saw someone say, how many likes away from 100 are we? They want Elliott to do something. We need 32 more likes to reach 100.
100 Elliott push-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we get
Elliott,
100 likes, I'll do 100 push-ups. If we get 100 likes before the show ends, I'll do 100 push-ups.
We are at 67. So
okay, and also 67. One more super chat before we end this segment. Nate, by the way, member for 8 months. Most important day in American history. Bengals traded for someone for the 3rd time in 52 years. Kenner hates working in the studio. Elliott touches his hair 500 times, and Jacob is looking extra cute.
Thanks, Nate. Let's go Bombers.
But speaking of great moves, Kenner, you brought up the potential of a great move that the Reds threw in the hat. They're throwing their names in the hat, and that's the qualifying offer of Nick Martinez.
That was a phenomenal transition.
Thank you. I worked on it. I had that saved up for like 5 minutes. But yeah, so I'll tell you what. We're going to talk about the Reds for the final radio segment of the day. And just because I want to get some Reds takes in, then we'll go back to the Bengals if we have anything left in the tank. But I want to talk a little bit about the Reds coming up next on ESPN 1410 Wing AM.
A perfect transition, a perfect tease, and in perfect use of the hands as the producer giving me the countdown as we return for our final segment of the day here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
You know he used to work in radio, Kenner.
It's true, I did.
Yeah. I don't know if you knew that.
No. When?
Well, it was a couple years ago. I actually worked for 700 WLW. I don't know if you ever hear of them.
Oh, the big one.
The big one.
Yeah, they're the nation station.
That's right.
And I used to work there, and I would produce shows, and I would act. So I'm actually a professional in the radio business. I've been a big name in this field for quite some time.
No, the zebra.
That's right. I mean, yeah.
Elliot, we got 30 likes in 30 seconds. I just wanted to update you on that. We're at 95 likes.
Watch this. I'm about to unlike it.
I also have bad news for you, Elliot, on the push-up bet that you have going here. I found out the hard way on Sunday. The chat doesn't let you do multiple sets.
Oh, well, I can only do multiple sets.
You have to go all the way through.
If you think I'm doing 100 straight, you got another thing coming.
All right. Well,
man,
now we've hijacked your perfect transition.
It is political season. It is that time of year where, broken promises just sweep the nation. So that's okay. That's okay, nonetheless. But no, and the last super chat, Kenner doesn't like working in studio. Show of hands, who likes working in the studio? I love the studio, but I think we're loving this remote day today. And I'm not the only one that's not in the studio today.
My bed is right there. Like this is awesome.
Yeah. And where the hell's Casey?
Miami field hockey all week.
Well, I think he's working on his house today.
Oh, he's back on the roof today?
Yeah, I think so. I think his roof had a hole in it.
I feel like when it rains I feel like that house is just about to fall down.
If there's a storm, what is wrong? A piece of Casey's house goes missing. That's just kind of how it works. And he's going to be out for a week to fix it. But that's okay, because I'm here.
His premiums have to be through the roof.
They don't even have premiums anymore. They don't insure them. They're just like,
Casey, I missed you.
Yeah, no, we miss you, Casey.
All right, so, I want to send it back to my guy, Elliot, because he did a fantastic job showing off that radio experience of his. By the way, I'm going to put a good word into you to Trace. I don't think Trace knew you worked in radio. I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to let him know that you have, that you have a lot of experience you've been hiding from all of us. But no, the Cincinnati Reds, couple things with them. Obviously, one bullet point that deals with Joey Votto, which we'll get to in a moment. But the Reds, they countered with a qualifying offer to our guy Nick Martinez, a name that, of course, we all talked a lot about down the stretch of that Reds season where a lot of people checked out, but he put on a show. And by the way, didn't he get named the Reds Pitcher of the Year?
That's right.
That the Reds Pitcher of the Year.
Yeah, best pitcher on the Reds staff this season.
You cannot let the Reds Pitcher of the Year award winner go for 2024. Elliot, a qualifying offer they countered with. Are you surprised?
I'm a little surprised because I don't really know where to fully grasp this Bally situation. I don't know if the Reds have money from a TV standpoint or not. I don't understand what's going on there. And until I get set answers as to what our budget looks like for this coming season, I don't know what to expect in terms of can we grow this payroll. I don't expect the Reds to spend $300 million, but I do expect the Reds to do something to help compete. You don't bring in Terry Francona if you're not willing to compete. Nick Martinez is a guy, I feel like if the Reds were unwilling to compete, if they said we're going to cut payroll, he's a guy you don't offer. He's going to be a reliever / starter given the injury history of who we have in our rotation right now. But he's going to primarily be a long reliever. He's going to come in there and give you 3 innings, 2 innings of work every single outing. And when he needs to start, he has that availability. But the Reds coming out and saying, we're willing to pay you $21 million. And I don't know what the reports, I don't know how true these reports are, but from everything I've read, it sounded like they want to extend him. They wanted a multi-year deal. They want Nick Martinez to be a part of the Reds' future, at least for the short term. And they tried, and I think that deal fell through. Again, that's just what I've read on Twitter. Those are the reports that I've been reading. But them coming out and saying that we're willing to pay this guy, a reliever, roughly a reliever. I know he started and had a great year. $21 million. That's a big step, in my opinion. That's a massive step. I think the Reds pitching staff is one thing that I don't think really needs to be addressed that much. I know Emilio Pagan just opted back in. He took his player deal and opted back in with the Reds next season. So you'll have him. You'll have the same cast and characters of our bullpen, Tony Santillan, Ian Jabot. We'll see if we can get Buck Farmer back. But I think that right now the Reds pitching staff, you don't need to help. But them saying we're going to do that anyway, I think that goes a long way, at least with me, who's trying to see the Reds compete at least at a high level next season. just like they did at least towards the back end of last season, or not this past season, the season before. So it's a big deal, in my opinion, for the Reds. And maybe he won't take it. Maybe he's trying to go elsewhere. Maybe he doesn't like pitching in the in Great American Ballpark. But for what it was worth, he was great, and I'd love to see him back in a Reds uniform. I think he's a valuable piece to the operation, and I think it's one of those things where if you can get him back, maybe we can start talking about the possibility of the Reds really trying to go all in this year, because that's what I want. I want to go all in. I'm tired of the waiting. I've tried to wait, and I've waited, and I've waited. We're trying to wait on the prospects, and I can't wait anymore. I'm out on the waiting. Go sign somebody. Go get me a right fielder. Go get me a corner infielder, and let's go to work. Let's go try to win this thing. We still need a backup catcher. There was some names thrown around there on Twitter that the Reds, maybe go out and get Travis d'Arnaud. Somebody. They do need a backup catcher, no doubt about it. But if you're able to show me that you're willing to compete right now, right off the rip, with a Nick Martinez qualifying offer, it goes a long way to saying that they're going to try to spend this offseason.
And Nick Kirby comes in the chat with like 5 buckets of water to dump on your fire. The Reds offered Nick Castellanos a qualifying offer and still cut payroll the following season. So more and more evidence that it's the same thing as we talked about with the Bengals trade deadline. I did not believe they were going to make a move, even though there were a billion reports, until this morning when a move came across the table. I do not believe the Reds are going to invest in this team long-term until I see them do it. Terry Francona is a phenomenal start. Offering Nick Martinez the qualifying offer, a phenomenal start. This is all stuff that winning teams just do, though. The fact that we're so overjoyed that we're offering debatably our best pitcher last season the qualifying offer, it's like, come on. Every team would offer that guy a qualifying offer if he was on their team and did what he did last year down the stretch. I'm still really hesitant to get super confident in what the Reds are able to do this year, but I really hope that they keep their foot on the gas this offseason and continue to add to this team. The one piece that I do disagree with Elliott on is I think pitching is a major, major point of need for this team. I think with the injuries we saw at the end of last season, Brandon Williamson and Aguiar getting hurt at the end of the season with Tommy John, and missing all of next season. I think getting not just relievers in the bullpen, but also adding a starter is absolutely crucial for this Reds team as we go into next season.
Thing too, and keep in mind what he has 15 days to decide to take the 1-year deal. It's a 1-year deal for $21 million, and again, 1 year, $21 million deal on the qualifying offer. The thing that's wild is, and again, luckily it's just a 1-year, deal. You test this, you go in with it. But my fear is for a team that, all of our definitions are different of what is considered all in for the Reds. Nick Martinez, who I really like, and I would love him back in Cincinnati. It's not about that. You guys have touched on it. There's a lot of needs that this team has. Depth, I think, is something that this team's never going to fully have at any point. Like, you have to ask yourself, do you want depth and balance across the roster, or do you have to go a little top heavy in certain positions? And that's gambling if you're the Cincinnati Reds. If you have a bunch of average guys who are platooning at a couple positions, or one guy that is really, really good at one position, what's the better route to go? The Cincinnati Reds are in a position right now with Nick Martinez where if you give him $21 million, how much more money are you going to spend outside of that? That would be my concern. Yeah. Would I rather have that $21 million go towards another move or two, or all in on Nick Martinez, or maybe to Elliott's point, it's a sign that, hey, if you're willing to give $21 million to Nick Martinez with all the deficiencies you still have, clearly they're not just prioritizing their money for him. They're taking care of him while getting set to go and make other moves. We'll see what ends up happening.
Nick Kral's already said that they're going to address the outfield at some point. He's said that. So I think this is something where if you're willing to pay a reliever, small market teams don't give $21 million to relievers. They don't do that. I've said it 400 times, but Nick Martinez isn't just a reliever. We understand that. He's a little bit different. So I think he's worth $21 million. But saying that, if you're willing to spend $21 million on a reliever, then you're willing to spend elsewhere, and that's what I think is going to happen.
I certainly hope you're right, and that is everything that they could have done to this point, they have done correctly. So that is phenomenal, because how many times have we gotten to November 1st and the Reds have already screwed up their offseason somehow? So very, very happy with the way this is going so far. Still a lot that I want to see happen this offseason in order to mark it as a true win. But, really, really good start for the Reds in this offseason. But another important thing to remember about the qualifying offer is obviously we would love Nick Martinez to sign it and stay this year with the Reds. But if he doesn't and chooses to go somewhere else, the Reds will get a comp pick for that qualifying offer being not taken by Nick Martinez. And when Nick Castellanos declined his comp pick, or declined his qualifying offer that resulted in a comp pick, the Reds used that to draft Sal Stewart, who is now a top 100 prospect in all of the MLB. So those comp picks and stuff can be very valuable. So outside of just Nick Martinez returning to the Reds, this qualifying offer is a big deal for the Reds as a whole.
Well, the Reds, that's not the only piece of Reds news that has people talking right now. Reds president Nick Krall said that the club has reached out to Joey Votto to gauge interest in returning to the team in a role to be determined. So obviously he's retired. They're not returning to play, obviously, but returning to the team in a role to be determined. Look, I know before the Reds hired Terry Francona, we were throwing out all these like wild card names of like, okay, stop going with the former player route. I was never advocating for the Reds to hire Joey Votto as a manager. But again, with a lot of teams going that former player route, if there was a guy that has ever had the respect of the clubhouse more than Joey Votto, he would be a perfect candidate for that. I love the idea in some capacity. Now, I don't know what you guys think. Do you guys think this means more of like a front office role or a role on the staff of course, Terry Francona? What do you think they mean when a role to be determined? Is this a front office role or a potential spot on the staff for Terry Francona? Because I love the idea of Joey Votto being a future manager in baseball. I think he'd be fantastic at it. I would love to see him on the staff with Terry Francona, but are you getting the vibe that this is more about a front office move more than anything else?
No, he's going to go work in the clubhouse. Because you don't bring Joey Votto back to not have him interact with the guys. I think you would have him help develop great plate discipline and help develop at-bats. Last season, the at-bats were legitimately the worst I've ever seen watching a Reds professional team. Like it was horrible. I mean, in every at-bat, I felt like outside of maybe a couple guys here and there, they don't have it. They don't have it yet. Let me rephrase. They don't have it yet. So I think having a guy like Joey Votto work with the guys and have the Reds fans see him down in the clubhouse every single game, it'll go a long way. And I think Joey Votto said on the Dan Patrick Show, he wants to stay in baseball. He wants to work in baseball. At what capacity, we don't know yet. But if he's able to come back to Cincinnati, work as a coach, hitting assistant, coach of morale, I don't care what he is. As long as I can see him in the dugout, I'm going to be pretty excited. So I think this is a win-win situation if they can get this done. I don't think it's not a World Series winning move, but it's something where everybody's going to be happy because of it. So why wouldn't you do it? And I think he's good at his job, unlike, some people say that he's too focused on his TikTok career. But I'm not like that. I don't have that opinion. Kinner, I think, might.
We were doing so good today, guys.
I think he'll be. I think Joey Votto. I think Joey Votto, despite his promising TikTok career, will be ready to help manage the Reds into a perhaps World Series run.
Well, I mean, Jermaine Burton, there's a lot of things that he does that proves that he's not serious about it being an NFL player. But, I mean, you associated him with, playing the slots that he doesn't care about football. So, I mean, like, no. That's not what I said. I said no, that's exactly what you said.
I said sleeping through a team meeting is probably not conducive to winning football games.
Oh, yeah.
Joey Votto's scrolling on his phone once a day. Maybe not the same thing as missing team meetings.
Fight.
It's 100% not the same thing. By the way, I 100% agree with you. It has nothing to do. Joey Votto and Jermaine Burton don't deserve to be in the same conversation. The point I was trying to make is that you did a very similar thing, trying to associate him playing the slots at a casino as that's why he doesn't care about football, when I said there was a million other things that proved to me he doesn't care about football.
You must
you
have
did.
not.
You were laughing. You made fun of him not having friends. You made fun of him for being there alone.
I think your headset might have missed the part where I said I also go to casinos. I just said it was a bad look without friends there to go play casino games by yourself. Listen, I've got Reed Mouse. Shout out to Reed Mouse. He's in the chat right now. He gave me these 4 tokens. I'm going to come up to Cleveland, and I'm going to bet these 4 Jack Casino tokens on something, and I'll go up there, and I'll visit all your teams in Cleveland, and we'll go have a time, Kenner. That's what we'll do. Because you're so obsessed with this casino story. That's how we're going to have to get out of it.
If you guys want to go again, I'll leave.
Oh,
no,
actually,
it's all right.
Put it back on. I want to see Elliot's face more closely with this. Hey, Elliot, got a question. Was there allegations that came out about Deshaun or about Jameis Winston that maybe we don't know about? It looked like the team quit on him. It looked like that, it looks like a lot of the same problems that I said existed outside of the quarterback of Deshaun Watson existed still this past weekend. I wanted to believe that they were able to turn it around, but that looked like the Browns looked like the exact same problems. All the problems existed. The penalties, the defense stunk, wide receivers can't catch the football, they couldn't run the football, the offensive line was bad. All the issues that I said existed when Deshaun was playing some of his worst football and it was not helping. You said no, that was just them quitting. Did they quit on Jameis Winston? Did they quit on Mr. Winston like you said they quit on Deshaun? Because I don't think they quit on Deshaun. I think they're just a bad football team. And those same problems exist with Jameis Winston that existed with Deshaun when you said that was not the case.
It's not about how you start. It's about how you finish. And I believe with 44 seconds left, Jameis Winston fought down the field to get a touchdown to Cedric Tillman, your guy. Final score there, irrelevant. But they scored a touchdown on the last drive of the game. And that's all that matters, in my opinion. All
right. And Jameis,
that's it for the radio. I think I have to do push-ups now, though.
All right, guys. I'm back.
What's our count? What's our YouTube like?
We are well over 100 likes. We're sitting at 109. So Eliru has push-ups to do. I wish he would have told me he was going to put his camera on his roof for a second so I could have got him off of here. But that's what we're going to do. We'll take a quick break because that's it for radio, and then he'll do the push-ups for YouTube. Kenner, if you want to sign it off for radio.
You know what he's doing, showing off that roof? I think he's just trying to make Casey jealous. I think he's like, look
no holes.
Look at this, no holes. No water stains. Look at that. All right, that wraps it up for us on radio. Thank you, everybody in Dayton. Again, we've talked about the trades up to this point. There could have been trades that have happened since we signed off earlier today on Off the Bench, so keep that in mind. But we have the Justin Kinder Show coming up next, 1410 ESPN Radio. More Off the Bench, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube coming up.
All right, Ellie.
Man, is that your biggest fan?
Set this sucker up and give me some push-ups. You're going to have to put it up so I can see your push-ups.
I know.
I hope you're wearing pants.
I'm wearing pants.
We're going.
They're short. They're shorts.
We're going to give him the full screen look, Kenner.
All right. So I'm going to do this in sets.
You have 100 push-ups.
Okay. Are you ready? Here we go.
By the way, I wish we had background music.
We have 22 minutes. Yeah, I have no music in here. Kenner, you're going to have to sing.
Oh, I can't sing. Well, it's 2. Keep counting.
Well, we can just narrate it. 4, 5.
No, hold on. I was at least 10 by the time you started counting.
Well, these are only half push-ups. These are only half push-ups. So if you do 10, it's only 5.
I can't go all the way down. That's 10.
Okay, 10. 11, 12, 13.
I did 2 by the time you said 11.
They're not push-ups. I don't know when you're doing the push-up and when you're just like bobbing up and down.
I'm doing push-ups my way. Okay. They're my way. Frank Sinatra said he's doing it his way. It's
Elliot's version. Elliot's version.
So please count.
All right, what are we at? What are we at?
I don't know what we're at because you keep miscounting.
You're not doing push-ups.
We're at least 25.
This is going to get us copywritten.
Oh, yep, my bad. Yep, turn that off.
That's going to get us copywritten for sure.
Luckily it didn't get to the main part.
Break. Oh, that's a break.
What are we at?
Hold on. All right, hold on. That's a break. That's 20. That's 25 push-ups at least.
Optimistic John says you're at 14 and he gives you permission to do girl push-ups.
That's a girl push. That's as big of a girl push-up. Reed said that's a bad push-up. That's as good as a push-up I could do.
You can put the knees down. Just put the knees down.
You want me to do knees down push? That's far more embarrassing.
I promise you it's not.
Hey, if you pass out, is someone home to help you, by the way?
I don't know what we're doing. What is this become?
That's a push-up.
Hold on. You're never going to get to 100. Can we
That's
call
30.
it chat? Can we call it at 30? Can we end the
No,
suffering?
I'm done. I'm going to go to 100. I'm going to 100. My wrists are starting to hurt though. Elliot, do one where your chest hits the. What does he say?
Hits the floor like an actual push-up.
Oh, I can't do that, unfortunately. This is what you got. Hold on.
Craig's at 30.
I'm at 30. I'm at 30.
This is just a push-up company now.
All right, here we go.
31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. This is good stuff. This is good stuff.
I will say I wasn't prepared to do push-ups today.
Why'd you agree
Usually
to do
I have to
100
stretch.
push-ups?
I'm at like 38. I'm at 38. Hold
Kinner's
on.
gonna help.
Okay.
Can we help?
I'm gonna tell
No.
you to help me, dude.
Yeah, okay,
Sure.
Kinner's helping. Get Kinner on the camera.
How many? How many?
I'm at 38. Do like 15.
Oh yeah, Kinner.
That's 15.
Okay, so what are we at now? 38. What's 38 plus 15? I don't know. Here we go.
All right, I can't leave you guys out to dry.
Oh,
Okay,
this is
thank you,
good
Jacob.
stuff. Good stuff. All right, how many is he doing?
He's not even going all the way back up. He's staying down.
There's 10 for you.
All right,
All right,
Elliot,
so
we
that's-
gave you 25.
Okay, so what's 38 plus 25?
38 plus 25. You got it.
Yeah, that's what
Come
we're
on,
at.
Elder.
I just don't know it off the top of my head.
I'm going to give you 10
All right.
more. I'm giving you 10 more.
1. That's 5. All right, what are we at?
I just gave you 10.
So, all right, so we're at 63 plus 10. That's 73 plus the 5 I just did. That's 78. Here we go. All right, here we go. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Let me light a victory match.
This is
Nobody's leaving. Nobody's allowed to leave. Hold on. Everybody stay calm. Victory match. Victory match.
This is why.
Come on, guys. We can do it. The flame of victory starts now.
This is why I
we
prefer
go.
drinking.
All right, 75, I think. All right, here we go. 2, 3. That's 6. That was 6. I'm out. What are we at? How much is that? 81? We're at 81. Nobody's
81.
leaving.
Nobody's leaving. I think Jacob left. Jake, did you leave us?
I think he might have left. That's okay.
I'm right
Did he
here.
just end the show?
I'm right here.
No, we're
I'm
not.
right
Nobody's
here.
ending anything.
No one's
I'm
anything.
doing
I'm
all
not going
100.
anywhere. I didn't know if you were going to do more
You can go
push-ups.
your-
I'll just put Elliot up there again.
Hold on. Let me put some sunglasses on.
He has 19 more to do.
sunglasses.
You're stalling. You're stalling.
You're
You don't
trying to
need
get a
sunglasses.
break
You're
here.
stalling.
You're trying to get a break here.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Lights are pretty bright in this room.
Craig's the only one that's actually trying to help you here.
What's he at? What is Craig saying? Thank
84.
you, Craig. I took off my glasses, so now I can't see. 84, so 16 more. All right. I will say my wrists are shot. Can I do a plank instead? All right. Here we go. Hold on. All right. 1.
Colton with a great point. The lighting in that room is preposterous.
Okay, 5. We're going 5 at a time. That's all I got. 89.
Is every
89.
wall of that room windows?
There's a lot of windows.
There's so much light.
There's a lot of windows in here. Lights are bright. Lights are bright.
Mr. Mo says,
right,
please take off the hoodie so you don't pass out.
No, it's okay. It's
Okay.
okay. We're going to get through this. This is good. The diet starts today.
Reed said you gave free toes. Did you give free toes?
Did I give? Oh, I might have. I'm not wearing socks.
Oh, no.
Hold on. All right,
Gosh,
here we go.
this
Hold
has
on.
turned into his OnlyFans account.
I know.
My wrists are really hurting here. The wrists are the real issue. I have bad wrists.
The wrists are always the issue.
All right, here we go.
If he gets hurt, is there like workers' comp that comes with this? I mean, he is live on camera.
I don't know what the workers' comp situation is.
That's
We're
it.
about to find
We're at
out.
95.
Yeah, we are going to find out.
We got 5 more. 5 more. They want to see my toes again. 5 more, everybody. Hold on.
See this?
It's really a wrist thing. It's really a wrist thing. Hold on. Nobody's leaving. We're all having fun. Nobody's leaving. Shall I light another match for the final 5?
I think you have to.
All right, here we go. Final match.
It's the Olympic torch.
The Olympic torch. Oh no, I broke the match.
New match.
Why do you have matches in the room?
Why do you have matches in your room?
I can't.
Oh my gosh,
I can't do
were you in the Boy Scouts, dude?
This is more embarrassing than the push-ups.
What is that? 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, oh, there we go.
There it is. There it is. Everybody take a moment for the final 5 push-ups.
Oh.
All right. Final 5. Here we go. Everybody stay calm.
Count them loud, count them proud.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. That's it.
Just abysmal. But we're an effort company, and that's what Elliot gave, is top-tier effort, no doubt about it. That's good stuff, I guess you could say. People could say that was good stuff.
Listen, it's about trying your best. And
now your room's just filled with smoke.
Yeah, it is. House is on fire. Parents' insurance is good though, so we're okay.
There we go.
All right.
Sign us off. Sign us off, Elliot, since you're out of breath. It'll be funny.
Everybody have a pleasant day. This has been Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I think that's it. Everybody have a pleasant afternoon, and we'll see you mañana.
I'm going to the casino.